Afternoon, everyone. So yes, we're going to start by having a look at the Everyone Can Create series of resources from Apple. Essentially, it consists of these 4 books that you can see on the screen here that look at drawing, photo, video, and music as categories of creativity. Now, Apple quite rightly says that everyone is born full of creativity, and nurturing it is one of the most important things that educators can do. And although being creative and encouraging creativity is intrinsically important just for itself, it's becoming increasingly recognised that for younger people, being creative is actually being really helpful when it comes to their career and their job prospects, because creativity, like other skills such as resilience and teamwork and so on, are becoming really important for employers. So it's not just being creative for its own sake, it's actually become a very important skill to have in this climate. So the Everyone Can Create, we have 4 books here. You can see that I've organised it so that you can see the chapters. So each book starts off very gently, a nice, gentle learning curve. And if you look at the drawing, for example, we've got word art, doodle art, and sketching just to get us going. And then near the bottom of that list, you get into things like designing logos and working with infographics and motion graphics and even book design. So it starts off with fundamental basic skills, and then it takes you through a journey to develop those skills and increase your knowledge. Very helpfully, Apple has produced a couple of teacher handbooks. The one on the left is, as you say, a teacher guide, and then the one on the right is for early learners. So for those teachers working with younger children, maybe in a nursery or reception class or Key Stage 1, these 2 guides are there to help you take the content and materials and resources within these 4 books and to help you apply them to your particular context. And one of the important things that they do is that they make connections between the skills and the knowledge and understanding that your learners will develop working through these books and apply them to other areas of the curriculum. So there you can see numeracy, literacy, science, coding, and so on. So although creativity is important, what it's doing here is actually developing creativity and then connecting that to other areas of the curriculum and how you can bring the skills that they learn from these 4 books into those other areas. And the apps that you'll need on your iPad to deliver every activity in these books on the screen there. So there's just 8 apps, and the first 7 come completely free with your iPad. You don't even need to download them. They're already there, available to you. The one at the very end, the 8th one that looks like the tip of a felt pen, that's one called Sketches School, but that's a completely free download. So the books, the teacher guides, and all the apps and everything you'll need to get stuck into this program of learning, all available completely free, which is just fabulous. So let me just jump into the Books app. So the Books app is the one, again, that comes free with your iPad and iPhone and Mac. And if you're not familiar with it, down in the middle here, there's a bookstore, and you can go out into the bookstore and search for books by name or author. And you can see I've already got my books installed here. If I just open up the drawing one, just briefly have a look at the content of them. And we can see here that we scroll from left to right, and it takes us through, gives us an overview of what we're going to be covering, which apps you're going to be using, and then it uses these image galleries really effectively. So I can actually just scroll through pictures within the same page, which is really nice. And then we hit our first chapter, word art. And again, we just work through, and you can see how it lays it out really simply, really clearly, and just allows you to get going, pick up a pen, make that first step, Then we move on to things like lines and patterns. And every now and again, you will see a word sort of in bold in blue. And if you tap on that, then it will access the glossary. And each book comes with a very comprehensive glossary of all the kind of key terms and some of the language that you'll be using within each book. That's a really nice touch. Let's just pop into the video book. Again, you can see here, it's all very nicely laid out. It's structured in the same way. It takes you through what you'll be covering, the apps you'll need, and then it asks you to get starting with your first movie. And another really nice feature of all these books is in the top right-hand corner here, I can create and access bookmarks. So I can jump straight to chapter 4 here, which is on page 59, just with a single tap. And then, boom, I'm straight into looking at the tutorials. And what I thought I would do is to take this idea of a tutorial, so it's a sequenced step of photographs and videos explaining something. So although I'm not going to use it to explain something, we can actually use the principle of a tutorial as a way of demonstrating my knowledge and skills around a particular task. So if you imagine I've been on a 6-month placement, maybe in a local cafe, and I've learned some skills and I want to capture that and put it into my digital CV. So whilst I was there, I've got some photographs and videos of me making a simple meal of poached eggs on toast. And what I want to do is compile all of that evidence and put it into a short video. So I'm going to come out of the Books app and I'm going to open up an app called Clips. And this is the one of the ones that comes free with your devices. And Clips just allows you to very quickly and simply put together a short video that we can use here to demonstrate my knowledge and skills around making a poached egg on toast meal. So it's opened up and I'm looking at my project browser. So these are some projects and videos I've made previously, but I'm just going to tap on New Project here with the Add button. And when I do that, slightly scarily, it takes you to the front-facing camera, but don't worry, we won't be there for too long. Down in the lower right-hand corner, I've got my content browser, and I have posters and photos. And I'm going to tap on posters to start with, because what Apple has done is put a range of fabulous animated opening kind of graphically rich title pages or chapter markers. And there's one here called In the Kitchen, and I'm going to tap on that and choose it. And then it puts that there full screen for me to see what it looks like. And although In the Kitchen is not an inappropriate title, I want to personalize this. So I'm going to tap on that text and it changes and becomes an editable text box. So then I can put in my own title of making poached eggs. And I can just tap in the lower right-hand corner to bring the keyboard down. So that's going to be my opening title. The way that we add content into Clips is really quite clever. Over on the right-hand side here, we have this pill-shaped red button. And this is obviously a record button. Red usually means record in these kinds of apps. And the clever thing about Clips is that it will keep recording for as long as I hold my finger on that button. So what I want to do for this title is have maybe 4 or 5 seconds just as the opening part of my film. So I'm going to rest my finger on this button for 4 to 5 seconds. Now, helpfully, when I start recording, there will be a little timer at the top of the screen here in the center, and that will indicate the time that's elapsing. So here we go. I'm going to rest my finger on here. And then I lift my finger off and it stops recording. And as you saw, it's a very professional, very slick, nice, elegant, cinematic, animated title sequence. And down at the bottom, the clip has appeared in a grey bar. And this grey bar at the bottom is our timeline. So this is where we'll organise our content. So we'll be able to sort out the timing of clips, we'll be able to put them in the right order and so on. And I can tap on a clip and press the play button, and just to check that I'm happy with how it's looking and how long it lasts and so on. And when you select a clip, you'll notice you get this row of editing options, which does things like mute it. If it has sound on, we can delete it and we can trim and split and so on. And I will come back to these shortly. But for now, what I need to do is tap done at the top and go back to our content browser. So I'm going to tap on this again. This time I'm not going to opt for a poster. I'm going to go to Photos. So Photos will take me to my photo library. So all the pictures, videos I have on my iPad are available to me. And it's taken me to my collection of images, of which there are many, but the little button to the left here, this will allow me to go straight to my albums. So in good Blue Peter fashion, one I've prepared earlier, I have an album here just of the poached egg related images. So I can get straight to the content that I want. So I'm going to tap on the first picture. Here are my eggs that I need. And if I hold my down on our big red record button, it will just add that picture to my timeline for as long as I hold my finger on the button. But what I would like to do is add a narration and maybe some text as well. And this is where Clips kind of comes into its own, really. Just above our content browser, you'll see a little star, multicolored star. And if I tap on that, it gives me a range of tabs across the bottom of this window, which allow me to add and customize and edit content. And the one I'm interested in at the moment is the one that looks like a speech bubble, because this allows me to access something that Clips calls live titles. And live titles, if I just tap on this first one here, live titles will add a text box to the image, and it will record my audio on top of that and convert my speech into text. And this grid gives me a whole range of different styles and options, different layouts, different colors, and I can just scroll through and find one that I think is going to look good on my picture. Now, the one I tend to like is this one on the left here called highlighter, because what this does is, as each word is spoken, it highlights it in yellow. So this has all sorts of applications in terms of literacy, which are really useful. So I'm going to select the highlighter option. I'm going to close that window. And then usefully at the top here, it tells me that the live titles option is on. So I'm going to hold down the red button again. And this time I'm just going to say a line of text to go with this image. First of all, I take one fresh egg. I lift my finger off and I can select it in the timeline and press play just to check I'm happy with it. First of all, I take one fresh egg. That's okay. If I wasn't happy with it, I could select it, delete it, and just have another go. It's as easy as that. But I'm okay with that. So back to our content browser, back to Photos and our album. And here's my second image. So it's the same thing again. We hold down the red button and I say my text. Then I crack the egg into a small cup. And again, I can tap on that, press play. Then I crack the egg into a small cup. Okay, so that's all working well. And the third one is actually a video clip. So although it's not a still image, we can treat it exactly the same. I can just hold down the red button and record my voice, and it will add the text and the text box on top of that video clip. Next, I boil some water in a pan. That's all looking good. So back to my photos. Here's where we add a splash of white wine vinegar. This is a little extra top tip for you all. If you do make poached eggs, a splash of white wine vinegar makes the white bond much more quickly, but doesn't add any flavour or change the taste in any way. So we hold down our red button again. I add a splash of white wine vinegar. Back to our browser, back to our photos. And the next one is a video clip again. Another little top tip, if you make a little whirlpool, that helps the egg sort of stick together rather than floating all over the place. So we go back to our red record button. I stir the water to make a little whirlpool, which helps to keep the egg together. And let me just check everything's okay with that one. I stir the water to make a little whirlpool, which helps to keep the egg together. Great. Okay, so back to my photos, just a couple more. Here's where I add the egg to the pan. I drop the egg into the center of the pan. Now that did look like it used the word pain there, but let's just check. I drop the egg into the center of the pan. Now it's self-corrected itself, which is great. So one last image to add. This is when the egg is finished. After a few minutes, I lift the egg out of the water. Cool, so they're all nicely in the right order. I can add some special effects to these by tapping on my effects tab once the clip is selected. And here are my live titles, but I could also add some text boxes. If I tap on one of these, and then I can put in some relevant text, take the keyboard down, and then I can manipulate this and resize and rotate and position as necessary. Obviously, it depends on your audience and what sort of film you're making as to whether or not you would use any of these extra effects, but they can add visual impact. Here's a little sticker, and I can put this over here and just kind of resize it. And then when we watch this back, after a few minutes, I lift the egg out of the water. And that adds some nice drama, a bit of visual impact to it. So one final thing to do to finish off the sequence is if I go back to posters and I choose my kitchen one again, and I'm just going to put in the end, take the keyboard down. I'm going to switch off my live titles because I don't really need any text on this. So I'm going to choose none. And then I'm just going to hold my finger down on here for another 4 or 5 seconds. There, so that's all done. Here's my timeline. I can rearrange the order if I wanted to. You can just tap and lift and drag, but that's all fine. One final thing I want to do is maybe add some background music. And up in the top right-hand corner here, you'll see a musical note. And if you tap on that, a dialog box appears. At the moment, it's checked for none, but if I go down to soundtracks, Apple has provided over 100 professionally recorded, high-quality, copyright-free pieces of music for you to add to your projects. And you can see a playful category here. They're organized into different genres. Just very quickly, I'm going to tap on Blue Mountains. It gives me a little preview. That's all fine. I've got a tick next to that at the end of the row. Go back a step, tap on Done, and then we can just watch this through to make sure it's exactly as we would like it. First of all, I take one fresh egg. Then I crack the egg into a small cup. Next, I boil some water in a pan. I add a splash of white wine vinegar. I stir the water to make a little whirlpool, which helps to keep the egg together. I drop the egg into the center of the pan. After a few minutes, I lift the egg out of the water. Now, a couple of really cool things that the app will do regarding the music is you may have noticed that it started off quite loud on the opening title, and then it automatically ducks down underneath the narration. So it knows that to give priority to the recorded audio. And the second thing it does is that it ends exactly at the right place. And the really clever thing is that if I were to remove a couple of clips from that and shorten it, the music would automatically adapt itself and shorten the length of time it plays for so that it always ends precisely at the final clip. Equally, if I add a couple of clips in and extend that video sequence, the music will lengthen itself, again, just to fit the project completely. So the only thing left to do, if I'm happy with that, is to share this in some way. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a share button. And if I tap on that, the share box appears. Just at the top here, I do have a little red options button. And if I tap on that, I've got some options regarding the kind of video in terms of its aspect ratio and orientation, how I want it to look. It also has the possibility here of saving it just as a project rather than a video. And that means I could save it somewhere and send it to someone who could then open it up and it becomes an editable copy that they could then work with. But I'll go back to video and let's tap on done. And we have our usual options. If you're using something like Schoolwork or Seesaw or Shobi, we can share it that way. If I tap Save to Files, just to show you what this brings up, and Clips is now taking all that media content, the still images, the video footage, the narration, the music, and the text as well, and converting it into a single video file. But in the Files app, we have access to our online storage options. So if you're using things like Google Drive or OneDrive and iCloud, then you can access those directly from within the Clips app. All I'm going to do is just tap Save Video, and Clips is just compiling all of that media content again, putting together a single video file. And by tapping Saving Video, it's just going to put it into my camera roll in my Photos app. I get a confirmation that that's been saved to the library. I can tap OK. If I come out of this and go to my Photos app, we can see that it's down here and I get all my usual sharing options within the Photos app. And the Photos app for the iPad is like a central media browser. So not only can you share directly from it to all sorts of different online services, but also all other apps on the iPad know that that's where it can go to for this type of content, for images and for video footage. So if I wanted to use this in my digital CV that maybe I've created in another app, like Pages, for example, and I wanted to create an EPUB electronic digital book, then now it's in the Photos app, and then I can use that in other documents on the iPad. So really, I just wanted to show you everyone creates series of books and all those resources that are available, but then just to take one idea from one of those books and using the Clips app just to show how quick and easy it is to make a short multimedia video which can be used as evidence of the skills and knowledge that someone has acquired, maybe on a placement or in the classroom, and then they can put it into a format that they can then use in a digital CV. So, Richard.
Absolutely incredible. No, that was a fantastic demo, and I can really see how just organising, perhaps in advance, the photos that you're going to use, or shooting the video clips that you're going to use, those short clips, getting them into the camera roll, and then Clips is the glue that brings them all together, and it's just so easy to use, isn't it? And there's a little bit of Apple black magic going on under the surface. I love the point you made about the music, just sort of self-adjusting. How magical is that? And of course, those music tracks, you're free to use them and share them publicly, posted it online. They're royalty free. They're yours for you to use with your project. So Apple really have thought of everything with the Clips app, and it just works beautifully, doesn't it? And I just like the linear way. You just build your project clip by clip by clip, and then it just glues it all together. Amazing.
Yeah, it's a really nice app, and it gets out of the way of people's creativity, which all good apps do. It allows them to express themselves.
Absolutely, and that's what everyone can create is all around, isn't it? You can use that across any subject, any age group, pretty much. And what a great useful tool that Clips app is. So, and tons more about drawing, photography, and music, a topic all by itself. But go take a look at that. Everyone can create content. We will share a link with you at the end of this this webinar. Our next topic now, Ian, is one that's really important, can make massive difference to learners and teachers alike. We're going to take a look now at the built-in accessibility features within the iPad. And I know this is something Apple have put a lot of thought and energy into for a long, long time, and accessibility is built into pretty much every Apple device. It's just if you don't go looking for those in the settings, you're never going to know about them. So what have you got to share with us now, Ian, about accessibility?
Okay, so, you make a very good point. This has been at the core of Apple's operating systems since way back when. When I had my first Mac in the 1990s, yes, I am that old, the accessibility options were in there, not as large the choice as there is now, but it was still something that they were thinking about and considering and concerned about and building in to their operating system. So as you mentioned, we're going to use the Settings app, which is the one with the silver cogs here. And if we tap on this to open it, if you're not familiar with the Settings app, on the left-hand side, we have a scrolling sidebar, and that reveals a list of topics and headings and app names. And when you select one of these and tap on it, the right-hand side then changes to reflect your choice. Usually when you open the Settings app, it lands on the General tab. And just below that, Accessibility has its own heading here. And then on the right-hand side, we can see all the options that we have. So what Apple has done here has really sort of drilled into the core operating system to allow you to customize and adapt and tweak and modify the whole system for the device to try and make it more accessible, more efficient, and more usable for people with different disabilities and learning difficulties. And the way they've done that is they've organized it into different categories. So this collection of 7 at the top here is all under the heading of vision. Then below that, we have physical and motor options. Below that, we have hearing. And then down at the bottom, we have a general with a collection of 3 options in there. So there are obviously an absolute ton of choices here and ways that you can change the iPad. And I'm not going to do a deep dive into all of those. But what I want to do is just to pick out some, just to give you a flavor of what's available. Now, if we start with vision, you can do some very simple things like make the text larger, make it bolder, and so on, through to something called VoiceOver, which is extremely sophisticated and completely changes how you interact with the iPad. So this feature is for people who have very little eyesight or no eyesight at all. And you completely navigate your way around the device just by using touch. So as you can imagine, just a simple touch doesn't actually give the iPad a command or activate anything. Once you touch something, then the iPad starts talking back to you. So if you tap on an app, it doesn't open the app, it tells you which app you've tapped on, and then to double tap to open the app. And it's not just about apps. If you move your finger around the screen, it will tell you the time and date, the strength of your Wi-Fi, how much battery you have. It even tells you if you use the camera and you take a picture, it will tell you how many people are in the picture by using face recognition. It really is amazing and very sophisticated. Just below VoiceOver, there is Zoom, which you can see I have switched on. And this is just a simple technique to zoom in very quickly onto a certain part of the screen. And as it says here, if you double tap with 3 fingers, you will zoom in. So if I double tap with 3 fingers, you can see there I've zoomed in. I can drag 3 fingers round to position it, and then I can double tap again and zoom out. And obviously you can set different levels of magnification. And I find this particularly useful when I'm presenting to a larger group. You know, if you're standing in front of a class of children and maybe the screen isn't very large or particularly bright, or it's an old projector. And this just very quickly allows you to zoom in if you want to show them a particular button or part of the screen. Simple double tap with 3 fingertips, zoom in, double tap again, you zoom out. I also use it on my phone. So everything we're looking at in accessibility is also available on the phone and the Mac. So if I'm in a restaurant and I'm struggling to read the menu because I've forgotten my glasses or it's very gloomy in the restaurant, I can simply sort of double tap, take a picture, zoom in and see the text and zoom out again. So the zoom feature is a really nice option. Let's just jump back a tab. Underneath zoom, we have the magnifier, and this just has a simple on or off. And if you have it on, then it creates a button that looks like an app. And I have mine here in the dock, and it looks like a magnifying glass with an add button. And if I tap on that, it opens up the rear camera, which is pointing at another iPad I have open, and it magnifies the screen. If I double tap on the screen, it brings up a little controller, and I can change the level of magnification. I can even put a filter on, should I need to, just to help me read the text. So again, another nice, really easy option. Got a button here that's the magnifier. You can have it on the home screen. I've got mine in the dock at the moment. So back into accessibility. Display and text size. So if I tap on that, here's where we can do some fairly straightforward things like make the text bold, make it larger, add some shapes around buttons, just ways that visually you can help make things stand out on the screen. But one of the really nice features is down here, which is called color filters. And mine are off at the moment, but color filters are a way that you can put like an overlay on top of the iPad. Now, we know that for some learners, very stark black text on a very bright white background can cause problems. It can actually cause letters to kind of move around and text to jiggle. For children or people with dyslexia and on conditions such as Erland syndrome. Now, the color filters option doesn't actually work via Zoom. If I switch them on, my screen has changed color, but what you're seeing on Zoom hasn't. And this is why I've set up another iPad just behind this one. So if I use my camera, you can see I have another iPad here. And if I go into the display option and color filters, this time if I switch it on, then you can see that the screen has now changed quite significantly. And down at the bottom here, we have a couple of sliders. So I have an intensity one, which allows me to gradually increase the intensity of that filter. And then below that, I have a hue slider, which allows me just to go through the whole spectrum of colors so that I can find exactly the right one that works for me. So color filters, really useful feature. Let me just tap those off and jump back. And let me go back into settings on this one. So color filters in the display and text size. Just below that, we have spoken content. And again, this is another really useful feature. I have speak selection enabled, which means that a speak button will appear when I've highlighted a text. So it could just be a single word, it could be a sentence, it could be a whole paragraph. When I select it, as well as getting the options to make it bold and italic and underline and so on that you expect in a word processor type document, I will also have a button that says speak, and it will read it back to me. And you can see below here, we have a whole range of voices in different languages. We've got male and female voices. We've even got different accents here, the variations on English. And you can choose your speaking rate using the slider here.
Speak selection reads selected content.
We also have a button here for a speech controller. And this is a really nice little extra that came a couple of years ago. And if I tap this on, we get this little discrete button that attaches itself to the side of the screen. And then when it's not being used, it kind of fades away to a light grey, so it's fairly unobtrusive. But if I tap on it and bring it out, it gives me, I can change the speaking rate, I can press play, but I have this little finger button here. And with the finger button, it allows me to tap on any chunk of text on the screen.
Show controller on.
And it will read it back to me.
Idle opacity 35%.
So if you find it difficult to highlight text or a word or a sentence, you can leave this speech controller just on unobtrusively. You can actually reposition it and stick it to any side of the screen that you wish to. That's just a very quick way that then you can just tap on any text on any page in any app or the internet, and you'll be able to have it read back to you. Really nice and easy. So let's jump down to physical and motor, and I'm going to tap on the top one that says touch, and again the top one that says assistive touch. And if I select this and switch it on, we get another little discrete controller here. And assistive touch is for people who may have difficulty navigating their way around the iPad with the touch screen. They may find using multi-finger touch gestures difficult. They may even find pressing physical buttons tricky, maybe through arthritis or if they're slightly shaky. And what this gives us is a button that gives us one tap access to a whole range of features on the iPad that otherwise might involve doing a gesture or pressing a button. So here we can see we've got the control center. I can just tap on that and the control center will appear. So rather than having to tap and drag and pull down from the top right-hand side, I've got a simple one-touch action just to reveal it. If I go to the device button, then I've got my volume up, volume down buttons, locking, rotating the screen. If I tap the ellipsis for more, I can take a screenshot, which, as many of you will know, usually involves pressing the home button and the sleep wake button simultaneously. And for some people that might be difficult. So here I can just tap on that and it will take a screenshot for me. Likewise with the app switcher, you can double press the home button to activate the app switcher. But that for some people might be tricky. Here I've got a simple one tap solution. And multitasking, I can have two apps working side by side with a single tap here. So the assistive touch button, again, once it's not being used, will just fade away into the corner. And again, you can reposition it where you like. Just allows some people to have simple one tap actions that otherwise would involve multi-touch gestures or the actual pressing of physical buttons on the device. So very clever. Just below that, we have touch accommodations. Now, if I tap on this, it reveals a whole range of options where I can actually change how I tap on the iPad. And I was working with a family a couple of years ago, and they had a daughter, a 9-year-old daughter, who had an iPad. And she found it very, very frustrating to the point of stopping her using it, because she found it very difficult to tap once and then lift her finger. She would, in fact, tap 2, 3, 4, 5 times very quickly in rapid succession. Now, for an iPad, that means 2, 3, 4, 5 different commands. So the first tap might open the app. The second tap might tap on an icon and take it to the next level. The third tap might do likewise. The fourth tap similarly. So within a second or two, she had tapped 2 or 3 times, 4 times, and drilled into the app, but wasn't where she wanted to be. She just wanted the app to open, where she had choices about what she wanted to do with it. So this was obviously a massive frustration for her. And what we did was we used this button here of ignore repeat. And if I tap that on, you can see that the standard window for a tap that the iPad recognizes is 0.10 of a second. And using the add button here, what we were able to do was to take that window, instead of it being less than a second, we made it 2 seconds. And that then meant it didn't matter how many times she tapped in that 2-second window, the iPad would always treat it as a single tap. And this transformed her use of technology and made it utterly usable and accessible to her. And that's one of the interesting things about all the accessibility options, is for many people, they will not even explore 99% of them, but the 1% they need and use completely makes the device usable and functional and productive for them. So there's some touch accommodations. Underneath that, we have voice control. Now, voice control allows you to completely use your iPad purely by using your voice. Now, if I switch this on, you will see a grid will overlay my screen and give me access to a number-based control. So every option on the screen now has a number next to it. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work through Zoom. So this is where I go to my plan B and back to my camera and to my other device. And if I go to voice control, now I'm going to switch voice control on, then I'm not going to touch the iPad again, and I'm going to compose a new email. Go home. $22. 5. Richard. 3. 7. New meeting date. 8. Hi Richard, comma. New paragraph. Can we meet on July the 4th, please? Question mark. New paragraph. By the way, comma. It's your turn to buy the coffee, full stop. New paragraph. Many thanks, comma. New paragraph. Ian. 2. 1. Go home. 1. 3. I even used it to switch the voice control off. So you can see that it's a completely different way of using the iPad. You can, in fact, still use all the touch options. So you could use a combination of speaking and then you can use the touch screen if you wish to as well. So it's just another example of trying to make the iPad available to as many people with their different needs as possible. Let's jump down to hearing devices. If I tap on this, you'll see that the iPad is now searching and looking for Bluetooth-enabled hearing devices nearby. It could be a hearing aid, it could be some headphones, it could be a cochlear implant. There are a number of different devices that allow you to take the sound from the iPad and get it straight to people's ears. And then sound recognition underneath that. So this is for people who may be hard of hearing, who may have headphones on and may be very focused on an app or watching a film, doing something on their iPad. And so the ambient sounds around them, may not be easily heard. So if I just tap this on, and then if I go down to sounds, it says here none are selected. But if I tap on that, it reveals a range of sounds that you'll typically find in a workplace setting, or maybe in a domestic setting. And some of these are obviously really important. So things like a siren and a smoke alarm, fire alarm, obviously they're the kinds of things you do want to hear. And then there are other things like, household appliances and what have you, and people. Now, I've got an iPhone, my iPhone next to me here, and I've got iMovie open. And in iMovie, fortunately, there are some sound effects. So I'm going to switch on the siren and the doorbell, because both of those sounds are available on my phone. So I'm just going to tap on police siren, this sound effect in iMovie, and see if the iPad will recognize that and give me some kind of visual alert or notification that there's a siren nearby. There we go. So I get this notification. The sound has been recognized. That may be a siren. Very cool. Let's go down to doorbell, see if it would recognize that. And again, it's picked it up. So again, another really clever, really nice feature. And it's worth remembering that as we get older, for most of us, our hearing will actually become impaired in some way. Most people's hearing diminishes as they get older, particularly the high frequencies. So this is something that many of us may actually be using later on in our lives. And then finally, right down at the bottom, it says accessibility shortcut. And if I tap on that, there are a range of accessibility features here that I can tap on and get a tick next to. And if I triple click on my iPad, the top button, but on some iPads, it would be the home button. If I just triple click now, it gives me a quick one tap access to switch on those accessibility features without having to go into the settings app and find what it is you're looking for. You can get a sort of ready-made list of some of the accessibility features that you're going to use. So, Richard, that's me just about done with those accessibility features. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments in the chat about that.
So nothing in the chat so far, but what an amazing set of features. We've only just scratched the surface of those settings, and each time I see one of your demonstrations or those by your peers, I learn something new. I think some of those features are just incredible. And I think it's also important to say that they work across all of the apps. So because Apple build this in to the iPad software, it doesn't matter which app you're running, it will take advantage of that feature because it's all in the underlying software that Apple give us on the iPad. And some life-changing features there, absolute life-changing. You know, the difference between seeing a screen and not seeing a screen, the difference between touching and interacting with the display and not doing so. These features are just invaluable. And you know, we talk about accessibility. You know, this is the definition of it, isn't it? I can see John nodding in the background, and I know that some of those features are used here at Mill Green. So you don't want to listen to me. We want to see what John's got to share with us. So John, I'm going to hand over to you. So I'm so looking forward to this. Off we go.
First of all, I'd like to thank Ian for that. That was absolutely amazing. But also, I'd like to point out that it's not only the elderly who are hearing impaired. Mill Green's full of kids 14 to 19, and it seems that all teenagers seem to be hearing impaired at some point or ignorant. And so this sort of app, an application, an accessibility application, is actually amazing for our use. And I want to know where you were 15 months ago, because I know I spent a lot of last summer doing online teaching, making videos and those sorts of things, and clips would have saved me absolutely hours and hours and hours. So in any case, I'll move on. Mill Green, I'll just give an introduction, is a 14 to 19 special school. It is an SLD designation, but we do have students who fill the full gamut of special needs. So we tend to have a very creative curriculum. And a lot of that curriculum is based upon interaction, independence, and all those sorts of things. So I'll just try and start a little presentation I've put together. Hopefully this should work. Fantastic. There's our school. It's a little bit of an arty picture of the school. It's an arty picture because I lost the original colour picture while I was doing something artistic. So unfortunately, that's what we're working with at the moment. And I know Richard's on a promise to send me back the original photograph of the school, which I have lost. Like I say, Mill Green School's a very interactive school. We do try and push a lot of our learners. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we started on a big journey with regards iPads and technology. But one of the reasons for this was because we do an awful lot of vocational learning off-site. We do a lot of hands-on learning, and a lot of the opportunities that arise don't necessarily happen in the classroom. Now, we do need to record a lot of information, and we do need to share a lot of information with the students. And just from a pure portability point of view, an iPad is far superior to a laptop. So I felt that really in a classroom environment, a laptop or a desktop was pretty much a glorified typewriter, word processor, and DVD player, whereas an iPad could do all that for us, but it could do so much more as well with regards taking videos, taking photographs, but also as an interactive tool that the students could really use to enhance their learning. And one of the tools that we did use was Evidence for Learning. It's a fantastic app. It's a really, really good app, which you can imagine from the title, evidences learning of the students. What we do, we have a really simple interface with Evidence for Learning. And it captures photographic, anecdotal, and video evidence, often against a very specific set of criteria or a framework, or based against a target. Could be an education healthcare plan outcome that's being sought. It could just be a wow moment or a piece of work, or it could be whatever you capture that's actually of interest. And it's just a nice piece of work that the student is doing, but it shows the progress throughout all the learning and all the time that they spent doing the learning. I've got a little picture there of the interface, which is very, very simple. I think the rule is with Evidence for Learning is that if there's a plus button, you can add something to that. So if you look at the interface there, it's got the learner, you add the learner, the date is on, you attach a video wherever, or you could attach a photograph, or actually you could take a piece of written work and take a photograph of that and attach that. And obviously it is data marked, so you can actually show progress from a start point to an end point very easily by attaching a tag which would identify the work itself. So we've got evidence there. Somebody's taken some photographs. It's obviously an art lesson there. They've taken a self-portrait, they've drawn the self-portrait, and actually, there we go. They're working with an Apple stylus there. Well, It's not really an Apple stylus, but it's an interactive pencil there to complete their artwork. So the framework that might be attached to could be attached to art. It could be attached to independence. It could be attached to ICT. And a comment will be added by the teacher or staff member, and this may be attached to a framework. So I've pulled up a framework here, which is horticulture. It's a sensory framework that we've got there. So all you would do there is say, right, okay, to match this criteria, this person is, for instance, number 3, accepting support to use tools safely. They're also exploring equipment used, and they're also supporting to grow plants from seeds, for instance. So they're digging basically and planting seeds. And that would be marked on, and we'd show mastery of the task, we would show the learning, we'd show the progression of the learning, and just the journey that that person would be on using this. Now, it's a great, absolutely fantastic program. However, what it doesn't allow us to do is actually capture the progress to hand over to the students. It's a tool that we've bought, it lies within our school system, but it's not there for us to give over to students. So what we thought was that we would look at how the tools could be used to support the learners when they're away from Mill Green School, how we could support them in their journey into independence, into work, into further education, because we hold all that information and we can't necessarily pass that on through the Evidence for Learning app. What we wanted to do was produce a digital CV, and we're only at the very, very early stages of that. The iPad as a learning tool is absolutely brilliant because, like I said before, it's portable, you can move it about, it's very engaging for the students who all seem to know how to work it incredibly well. Even when the iPad's getting a little bit old and long in the tooth, a little bit old, maybe it doesn't upload the latest operating system, you're still left with something with which you can view the internet, for instance. It will still run some apps, but it's also a camera and a video recorder as well, which in our line of work is absolutely invaluable. So we've got somebody there, just a video, a picture of somebody there interacting with the class iPad. In school, we've got over 100 apps that are available for use, and we all know what the iPad can do with regard to its apps. And they can be very specific to learning and very specific to needs. So as a special school, we use a lot of communication aids, such as Prologue, Code2Go, and Grid Player, which support with communication and obviously aid independence. And then if you look at it a bit further, you can really be very specific. So a tool there that I've mentioned is Dubstep Maker for those people who want to make their own music and get down with the kids. Sorry, I don't believe I said that. To something very, very specific, such as Fix Your Bicycle, which will help support learners to actually fix their bikes. It's all there in the title. And we do run courses such as motor vehicle maintenance, bicycle maintenance, catering, all those sorts of things, which are all supported by apps, which are freely available, very often free, within the App Store. But it's the use as a piece of equipment, a piece of hardware that really does support learners within our school and our environment, but also outside of the school and outside the school environment, because so many people have got access to these tools. One example that we've got here, I'm going to hold one up here, is this thing here. It's absolutely fantastic. It is an interactive stylus. Apple sell theirs, they're rather expensive, but other cheaper brands, it's like this one, are freely available. What I would say is do some research, because we bought a set of 10 of these initially, which were not working independently of the screen. So you had to wear a very, very sinister looking glove because the screen is capacitive. And when you laid your hand on the screen, it would actually read your hand touching the screen as well. However, with this takes precedence. So the point of the pen stops the hand being read on the screen. It's absolutely fantastic. It also doubles as a cursor, because many iPads obviously don't have cursors. So you can pick out points when you're using it in a word processing application, for instance. In this instance, we've got John doing an art lesson. First big picture, you can see he's opened up a picture. It's a big tall building. And he's looking at it. He's chosen his stylus that he's going to use, and he's picking out. The second picture is very, very simple. He's obviously picking out details. The third picture is where it becomes really apparent of what is actually happening in the lesson. He's looking at perspective. And I had to look at this a couple of times before I realized the progress that was being made. That third picture is not the same as the first two pictures. That's one that he's drawn himself. He can see the lines of the windows aren't necessarily the same. The angle of the building isn't necessarily the same, but the perspective of the building is fantastic. And he's used that by overlaying the pictures that were on the screen, drawing over them, getting a good idea, looking at where the perspective point leads to, but also he's doing it himself. So he's changed it himself. It leads to greater autonomy, greater independence. And look how engaged he is. You just see straight away that this person is very proud of the work that they're doing. And that's one of the benefits of a tool such as the iPad. Kids love using them. They really like to be involved in actually picking out programs and using the programs appropriately. Now, this is something like the 5th Apple event that I've been to. And the first Apple event that I went to, God blame me, it must have been 5, 6, 7 years ago at least, was in the Lowry Theatre in Manchester. And a lot of the apps that were being presented were very, very mainstream focused as far as education was concerned. And I think from that, I saw a lot of different apps that could be utilized specifically for us. So for instance, there is an app called MadPad, which is a musical composition application where you have 12 tiles on the screen and you pick up something that makes a noise, such as a set of keys, you give them a shake, and you record that, and that becomes a sound and a video that's attached to each tile. You press that, and it replays it back to you. And it replays it for as long as you press it. So you could have 12 different sounds with 12 different visuals on the screen. That was absolutely brilliant. But as soon as I saw it, I thought, wow, immediately, it's a schedule for an ASD student. It's a way to find your way around somewhere without having to ask for help. It's a tool for which you can make it meet your needs specific to the students. And that happens so many times with the apps that you have with Apple and iPad. We were speaking about accessibility before, and the accessibility tools that are built in to the iPad are incredible, really, really tremendous. But they're not just about accessibility. They're about examination and forensic examination. So for instance, the magnifier, for instance, would really help John in this picture pick out details so that he could replicate them when he's doing it himself. So just as a learning tool, the tools that are already built into the iPad are fantastic. Another tool that we use in school is not the pencil, is the Sphero. Here it is. This is it. It's a tiny little robot. Doesn't look like much, but wow, this really engages our learners in school. The Sphero has so many different levels of use. It is a robot that you can program like you used to in the old days, like the big track. So you go forward so many points and then left or right or whatever. What you do to program it now is that you code, you're automatically coding, and you do that straight on the iPad, and you set the robot off, and it goes in whatever direction you've got. But that's not the entry into the Sphero use. The entry into the Sphero use is a fantastic massive bowling ball that changes colors. And the students immediately get engaged when they're doing 10-pin bowling. And my office is directly opposite a hall, which I can see into. And the amount of times I've seen the students in there working with Spheros, with the 10-pin setup, working together, attacking the pins that are there, is honestly, it's unbelievable how often that actually happens. But then those lessons turn into something else. They turn into things like maths lessons because they're looking at angle of attack, they're looking at velocity, they're looking at speed. And these are all lying on a fun lesson based around a Sphero. Williamson and his friends at Ofsted said the other day that sticky learning was all important and it should not be sacrificed because of fun. If Gavin wants to come to school and see some fun learning that's really sticky, he wants to come in and see one of these lessons, because the Spheros are what I would like to say is multi-layered learning. Yes, we're doing ICT, we're doing coding. Yes, we're doing PE and sports by doing 10-pin bowling. Yes, we're doing maths because we're hitting it angles attack, we're hitting it with different velocity and different speed. Yes, we're doing ICT because we're using the iPad to control the direction of the spheros. But what else we're doing is that we're building up independence and resilience and social interaction and general having fun, and then realizing that actually learning doesn't always have to be about one thing all the time. We're following a model in school which is multifaceted learning, and the iPad really lends itself to multifaceted learning, and it really lends itself as well to the important aspects, because what we like to do is take a vehicle on which learning will lie. In this case, it could be sphere use and it could be geography in school. So we would plot a map around school and try and follow it with a sphero, or use a GPS signal to follow where the sphero could go, for instance, or track it on a map that we produced already. So we're looking at geography. And then you can expand that as well to the local area if you wanted to. But we're also looking at time, a very important aspect of learning, which is also really important to independence. So how long does it take for the sphere to get around there? Then we're estimating things. So we're building in math, so estimating how long the sphere will take to get around the school. We're also building in other aspects of learning. For instance, we've got a 3D printer behind me there, just behind the fan that's there. So D&T was involved because we made a chariot for the sphero. So we downloaded the plans for that, and we made a little chariot that it can tow things about on. And one of the things that'll tow things about on will be a video camera. So we're bringing in media and production values and all those different aspects that the kids find so enthralling. But again, all the important learning of social interaction, thinking and planning and making arrangements are always going to be part of this. Foresight and forethought. And actually, when we start to make those films, we've got to do budgeting as well, because we might need props, we might need tools. Can we make them? Do we have to buy them? All these different aspects about planning, about independence and life are built into a lesson that's often based around something like a sphero. So this is not the only thing that we do that with, but it sits within the iPad family of tools that we use. And all of those tools are not for their sole purpose. They lead to so many different layers of learning and so many different levels of engagement. So it's really important to our students. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You can see the guys there on screen. They're coding. You can see somebody in the background as well. I think it's Jess who sat there in the second picture there, examining where the spheros have gone. John's shown his code there. He's examining where the spheros have gone. And then Paul in the third picture is just basically planning to see how it would work. So it takes place in all different areas. It takes place in situ. It takes place in class. So you can actually set things up beforehand. Paul could be examining, for instance, whether or not the plan that he made, all the coding that he made, the distances and the measurements that he put in place actually worked when he got into the hall. So again, it's estimation, it's measurement, it's timing, all being part of the multi-layered learning. And you can see again, how enthralled are the learners there? They're really engaged. They're not just showing off what they're doing, they're actually doing. I'm going to backtrack again a little bit to what I said at the very start about digital CVs. I think what Ian showed us before with clips is really, really important as far as a tool is concerned. But there are pages and Keynote, for instance, that are built in to the iPad, which as we become more accustomed to them, we're finding them easier and easier to use. Now, one of our teachers here, Rob, who's actually in the room with me now, who's certainly way ahead of my understanding with the iPad use, used the Everyone Can Create booklets with his class team to look at how they could utilize them and develop their own apps. Some of the students developed instructional apps. One in particular did a music app, and the great way to explain that would be you would choose a song. So the song, you press it on the screen, it would pop up with an instrument, and the icon of the instrument would be there. You'd press the icon of the instrument, or you'd press the lyrics, or you'd press the overall music, and that would show up with the song words and the music that would be separate from the song, for instance. But if you pressed on an instrument, you get 3 icons, for instance, easy, medium, difficult. You press on that, and that would take you to a site that would teach you how to play that song on that instrument at a certain level. And when we were doing this, the students were massively engaged. They were so proud of the work that they produced, and rightly so, because it was such an advanced level of work, and it was very much led by the class teacher, but in actual fact, the production side was led by the students themselves because they were following their own levels of interest. So there might have been a fitness app, for instance. And one of our students in particular has basically solved our issue with a digital CV with a well-being app that he produced. What he did, he looked at how he could support other learners, because mental health and well-being has been really important recently. And he produced this app of his own. Now, he didn't just produce this app, he also costed out how much it would cost to put the app into production and how much he expected to make 3 or 4 years down the road. So I'm hopefully going to get into a partnership with him and manage him and take 20%, because I think this guy's got a big future. So I'm just going to show this app, and Jamie himself is going to explain it because this was videoed for his functional skills.
Right, so this is my app, as you can see, my app prototype. So it's called the Samaritans app, which is, as you can see, it's a beta app right now because I haven't fully finished it. And it's basically a well-being app. So you press start, so that, and then you press following emojis. So whatever your mood is today, you press the matching emoji. For example, if you felt happy, then you can press the happy emoji. And then this is a page. So this is what's called a random game. So this is where you press any random buttons and a surprise will come up, like, for example, like a game or a funny YouTube video, things like that. If you press the back button, it'll take you back to these following buttons, so you can have to go back to the main menu where we started, and then you can press another emoji, or you can go to the emojis on the landing page. So next we're going to press the sun emoji, and so you're onto this page here, so you can either click George or Sydney as the cartoon character people who you want to talk to. So I'm going to press George. Then here it says, "Hi, I'm George. I know you're feeling sad. This is a safe place to talk about your feelings. What do you want me to do for you?" So down here are a variety of options for what you want George to do. So, for example, if you want him to provide entertainment, you can play the lying game with him. So it can tell you all the things about George, and you have to see what is the lie or what is the truth. So press that. You've got the aim of the game here, which is George will give 2 facts about himself or what events happened to him. One of the statements is true, one of them is a lie. You need to try and guess which statement is true. If you guess wrong, then the statement is a lie. You will lose and you're out of the game. So you press start. And this is actually one of my favourite parts about this lying game. I'm actually really proud to do this part of the app. So we got here which one of these events happened to George. Well, happened to happen, that doesn't make any sense. In a nightclub back in 2005. So I got here either George got into a fight with a bouncer because the bouncer asked George to leave because he wore a Scooby-Doo costume, very interesting, or one of George's friends spiked his drink, which made George crazy, and he ended up swinging on one of the ceiling water pipes and burst water pipes and flooded the entire nightclub. So I'm going to press number 2. Let's see if this is right. Oh no, I lost. So you can either play again or return back to the main menu. In this case, we'll return back to the main menu, and then you're back to the George page. So if I want to go back, as these buttons haven't been created yet, so I'll go back, and I'm going to press another emoji. So, for example, if I press the angry emoji, this is something I'm currently working on right now, so it's a work in progress, but here we have Bob. So it says here, "Hi there, my name's Bob. I know you feel angry today, so I'm going to try and help you get through your feelings. This is a safe place and we will work together." So click here to continue. And then obviously this is a work in progress. So right here, I'm trying to do the emojis. So that's the work in progress right now. And then, yeah, that's near enough my app. So all the others are work in progress. So, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I think when we look at the way that students are engaged in the hardware, but also in the software that sits within it and the apps that you can buy, you see levels of independence, autonomy. And I love the bit there where Jamie said, I'm really proud of this bit. He's really proud of his work. And you're seeing levels of understanding that that's way beyond what I can do at the moment. You know, he's going to come in and show me how to develop this as an app for our digital CV. He's the expert now. And it's the best way to learn to become the teacher. And that's what Jamie's demonstrating there. Now, that is obviously an example of some of our most able students' work, but that work can be carried on, I would say, independently for about 40 to 50% of our student cohort. And it can be carried on with support for 100% of our student cohort. Claire, who's with me now, when we went through clips before, said, wow, I'm going to use them now for our annual review every year when we review the education healthcare plan, because we normally accompany it with I'm going to say the words, I'm going to say it, I don't mean to offend anybody, a PowerPoint presentation, which is obviously very inferior compared to what we can do with clips, and also with a lot of the other apps, the Pages apps, for instance, and the Keynote apps that are there within the iPad, because the students are able to do it themselves in situ whenever they're working, whether it be indoor, outdoor, in school, off-site, in the community, at home, that they just can't do necessarily with sitting at a desk with the PowerPoint presentation program in front of them. So this is something that we're working towards developing, but you can see the kids are well on the way to actually sorting it out for us already. So hopefully we can continue in the future.
Absolutely incredible. And what I saw there was just a really motivated and proud student who'd been given the canvas that an iPad gives you and just gone with it in a huge way. And what a great example of this whole notion of creativity. And of course, you said, you know, we've got an iPad, it's also a camera. It's actually a voice-controlled camera if you need it to be, as we saw with the with some of the accessibility pieces that that Ian showed us just a moment ago. Absolutely incredible. John, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Glad the Spheros are working for you. They're great fun, aren't they?
Yeah, thanks my team for being with me now. I would say I'd put them on camera just to say hello. They're the real Oh.
Fantastic. Excellent. Right, I'm going to jump back into the last few slides to wrap up. And my word, we've almost stuck to time to the second. So thank you, all of you who participated. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ian. We've got some resources to share with you, we said, and you know, these resources are totally free. If your setting has the iPads, then you've done the spending. Click on the QR code, or zap the QR code with your camera, and that will take you to the Everyone Can Create overview page on Apple's website. And thereafter, there are links to the books that Ian showed us. It's a great format, full of great photography, and it really does walk you through step by step. So do take a look at those. Another resource to point you towards is Apple's Apple Teacher Program. This is free professional learning. It's online. You log into a website with your Apple ID. That's your iTunes account, your Apple TV account. You've got plenty of reasons now to have an Apple ID. Log in with your Apple ID and work through some modules. You can do some quizzes. You can earn an accreditation, which is the Apple Teacher Accreditation. But I think more important than that, it's becoming a great hub for resources as Apple create new ones and share them out. So recently, there's a section there now where you can create your own teacher portfolio, which you can choose to share or not. That's completely up to you. But it's a great place to go find some or share some great examples of what you're doing. And also, there was a section posted not so long ago about augmented reality and some fantastic apps that will really bring some amazing things to life in your classroom or your playground, including rocket launches, the Statue of Liberty, and beating hearts nonetheless. So go take a look at those. First QR code there is the Apple Teacher webpage, the overview of that. And the second QR code on the page now is where you sign up. So get your cameras out and go zap in and join the Apple Teacher Program. Last thing to share with you this afternoon, if that has got your creative juices going as a teacher, then we can help at MCC. That's what we're all about. And we put together this MacBook Pro Creative Bundle to help you as teachers to create your own materials and give a bit of polish maybe to the videos and things that you're creating. So a microphone just like this one for good quality audio. Hopefully you can all hear me now. And some backdrops there so you can do some of the green screen magic with iMovie. And with iMovie, that'll do some great things with green screen. So if you want to know about that, please do drop us a line at education@mccdigital.com or click on the URL, visit the URL on the screen, and that's available on a MCC MyLearn subscription for just £59 a month. And of course, we can tailor that. It can be an iPad instead of a Mac, and we can absolutely build that to order for you. And we'd love to tell you how we can help you get creative in the classroom. So hope that's of some assistance to you. I think that's it from us. I think we're bang on time. I'm looking at Joe, see if there's any questions in the comments. We're all good. We will be posting this to the MCC YouTube channel, so if you've got a colleague who you want to share this with that perhaps has missed this afternoon, then there'll be a link that we'll share with you for that. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Ian. Thanks to John. Thanks to Mill Green. Been wonderful hosts, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.